No DQ Galaxy, we are live with a recap of Monday Night Raw for Monday, February 27th, 2023. Shout out to the early birds, Walter Cruz, Gomer Kyle, Randy Engel, Matthew, Steve-O, Jonathan Rowan, Hamp Connell, Miguel Ortiz, Psycho Jet Black, and everyone else. I thank you for tuning in early. Let's get right into this recap. We opened up the show with Becky Lynch and Lita arriving for their women's tag team title match, which was the main event of the show. We had footage shown from SmackDown, and then we had Jimmy Uso along with Solo Sikoa come into the ring for a promo, basically denying that there are cracks in the bloodline, saying that family fight all the time. They said that they continue to run the locker room, and this led to the Street Profits arriving. Street Profits insulted the bloodline, saying that they can't even run their own damn family, let alone the locker room. Street Profits said they want the smoke, and that led to our opening match of the evening. Street Profits versus Jimmy Uso, one half of the tag team champions, and his younger brother, Solo Sikoa. You had Solo dominating for a while, but then Dawkins was able to take Solo down, and Montez Ford got the hot tag, tried to put away Jimmy Uso, hit a top rope crossbody. Solo and Dawkins tagged back in, and the Profits attempted to double team Jimmy, but Solo knocked Ford off the top rope to the outside, and then Solo was back in. He hit the Samoan spike, pinned Dawkins. Solid match, but ultimately a predictable outcome here. And they continued the attack afterwards, and that's when Solo went for the steel chair, was going to take out the Street Profits, but then Kevin Owens showed up in the hoodie like Sami Zayn, coming in with a super kick, took Solo out with that, and then hit the stunner to Jimmy Uso and fled the scene. No Jey Uso whatsoever. Next up, we had the VIP Lounge, which was meant to find out if Brock Lesnar would accept Omos's challenge for WrestleMania. Now, Brock Lesnar went out there before MVP. He made himself comfortable on the couch. MVP arrived. Lesnar apologized for being early, said he was there on business, wanted to hear MVP sell the match. So MVP talked about Bobby Lashley and how MVP was not in Bobby Lashley's corner, and Lesnar had to hit a low blow to get out of the match. So what's going to happen when Brock Lesnar goes up against a giant with MVP in his corner? A giant, according to MVP, will subdue and conquer the beast. Lesnar liked the pitch and accepted the terms, gave MVP a high five, said they should drink on it, and Lesnar pulled out his own booze instead of the MVP champagne, and he drank some of it. MVP wanted to know what it was. Lesnar said it was white lightning. MVP started to drink it, but then he wasn't feeling the taste of it. He spit it out, just happened to spit it out in Lesnar's face. Now, Lesnar earlier had promised no Suplex City, but he did not say anything about an F5. And the crowd was chanting, "You effed up," which got censored, by the way. Lesnar, of course, laid out MVP with the F5. We all knew this was coming, so it is official. MVP will be representing Omos against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Hamp Connell sent in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Hamp. I appreciate it. Says, today in history in 2000, Triple H ends the career of Mick Foley inside Hell in a Cell. 20 years ago, 22 years ago, I should say. It's been a while. And he said this match doesn't get nearly as much love as it should be due to being overshadowed by their Royal Rumble match. And also the fact that it was not, in fact, Mick Foley's final match. If it was Mick Foley's last match, I think people would remember more of it. But since he came back after it, and of course, people remember the first Mick Foley Hell in a Cell match, and he did take a big bump in that cell match, a little bit safer than the other ones, so not quite as memorable, but I still think it was a really strong match, no doubt about it, and I think it does deserve to be recognized. Building Nexus sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Says, Omos has been given every chance to succeed, so if things go south, ... Well, like I said on the No DQ review, this is going to be a squash match. I think maybe Omos will hit one or two big moves, but it's going to be a showcase for Brock Lesnar. Somebody for Brock Lesnar to beat up. Brock Lesnar is going to give the big 7-footer the F5. Crowd will ooh and ah. It's for the spot. It's really just for that, so they could show years from now, WrestleMania moments, Brock Lesnar F5ing Omos. And actually, I stand corrected. That No Way Out was 23 years ago, not 22 years ago. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, Baron Corbin versus Brock Lesnar would have been better. I disagree with that. I mean, Omos does have the giant gimmick. Really doesn't mean much at this point, but yeah, Brock Lesnar F5ing him will be a cool visual. And that's really all there is to it. I mean, the match is what it's going to be. Sure, we could have gone Brock versus Gunther, but, you know, they had other ideas. So there you go. And happy birthday to Gomer Kyle, turning 44. I'll be there pretty soon, my friend. Have a great one. We had a promo from Lita and Becky Lynch, talked about how it's on their bucket list to win the tag team titles. We then had Cody Rhodes versus Chad Gable, which was a good match, as you would expect from these guys. Now, of course, it's one of those matches where you damn well know Chad Gable ain't winning, but it was solid. Chad Gable did get some offense in the match. I mean, Cody hit an inverted suplex, and then Gable gained control after the break with a little bit of help from Otis. But then he missed the diving headbutt. Cody continued to build up momentum, although he was selling his knee. He did put on the figure 4, but Gable got to the rope, and then Gable hit a cliffhanger DDT and then hit the big moonsault, but Cody kicked out. Gable was hip tossed to the outside, and Otis was supposed to help Gable, but was distracted by something, which I guess we're supposed to believe was Maxine Dupree or something. I don't even know. But nonetheless, Cody took advantage. He threw Otis over the barricade and then got back in the ring, hit the springboard cutter, followed by the crossroads, and got the 1-2-3 victory. Nice showing for Cody. And then after the match was over, Cody got on the mic and said that he's yet to be in the same ring with Roman Reigns heading into WrestleMania. And since Roman Reigns is going to be on SmackDown, he will be on SmackDown as well. The plot thickens. We're finally going to get Cody and Roman on SmackDown, which is interesting because I figured the focal point of that show would be Jey Uso, and now they're focusing on Cody and Roman. We then had Baron Corbin backstage being interviewed, but of course the running joke is nobody cares about him. The interviewer left, Byron Saxton, and went over to Kevin Owens to ask about the attack on the Bloodline. And KO once again said that he will not stop until the bloodline is finished. And he said, once again, he does not need any help. We had the Judgment Day in a backstage promo, hyping up their WrestleMania matches, talking about the stuff on SmackDown last week, and Balor challenged Edge officially for WrestleMania, so we'll see what happens with that. I'm guessing next week we'll have some kind of follow-up. And then Maximum Male Models were talking to Otis and said they would be in his corner for a match. More on that here in a few. We had Asuka versus Carmella, which was very similar to Cody and Chad Gable, except not as good of a match. I mean, nobody really takes Carmella seriously at this point, except for Corey Graves. So this match was way longer than it needed to be. I mean, Asuka beat Carmella 3 minutes. Let's move on here. But, you know, they're trying to give Carmella a good showing, and she holds her own, but, you know, we all know she ain't winning this. So anyway, she did get in some offense, and it went longer than I was expecting for sure. And Carmella would slip to the outside of the ring, a little bit of cat and mouse here. She did catch Asuka with a super kick, but Asuka kicked out of it. But Asuka eventually got on the armbar submission and picked up the victory. Now, after the match was over, Asuka got on the mic and called out Bianca Belair. Bianca quickly showed up, got in the ring, started talking on the mic, but then Carmella knocked Bianca into Asuka and then took her leave. And then later on backstage, you had Chelsea Green complaining to Adam Pearce again. Carmella showed up, and a match was made for next week, Carmella versus Bianca Belair. So now it's Bianca's turn to beat up Carmella. I hope they're not doing a three-way. People were talking about that. Maybe they're going to do a three-way, and that's why Carmella is still involved in this. I hope not. I really hope that's not what's going on here. But really what I think is happening is they're teasing Chelsea Green and Carmella being a tag team. They might be the new Iconics, as Tic Tat Tat pointed out in the chat room. They introduced each other and shook hands and all that stuff. Hamp Connell sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Hamp. Much appreciated. Says, in 2001, this was another today in WWE history, Jerry Lawler quits WWE after they fire his wife, the Cat, who showed her tots at Armageddon. That was back at the end of 99. And then Jerry Lawler would return in November after they separated. What a story. Jerry Lawler quits the company for his wife, and then they split. And then he ends up back in WWE. So there you go. Poor Jerry. Quit his job for that woman, and they split up not too long after that. Moving on here, we had Piper Niven versus Candice LeRae, which is really when this show started to drag. This show was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Shout out to Carl, good friend of mine over there in Grand Rapids. But with all due respect to his city, they did not bring it this week. This was maybe the weakest Raw crowd of the year, like especially for this match. It felt like a graveyard. And Nikki Cross walked down to the ring right behind Candice, and it was really a nothing match. Basically, Nikki Cross was distracting Piper, so Piper threw Nikki into the barricade, went back in the ring. Candice rolled her up, got the win. You know, total throwaway segment here, in my opinion. You know, just to get these people on TV, bottom line. Backstage, Johnny Gargano was happy that his wife finally won a match, and then brought up how Otis approached him wanting some hot action, but not that kind of action, just a match. Ha, ha, ha. And he accepted. And then Judgment Day showed up, and started insulting Johnny. And Finn Balor said if Otis doesn't finish the job on Raw, then Finn Balor will take care of Johnny Gargano on next week's Raw. So pretty much just giving away what we already knew, that Johnny would be beating Otis. I mean, that's what this was. I mean, yeah, of course, Johnny's not going to lose to Otis to set up a match with Finn Balor. We had Miz TV with Miz's big announcement. What was the gift from Maurice? Well, the gift is that there is a special guest host of WrestleMania. And that guest host is The Miz. The Miz will be guest hosting WrestleMania. I guess this is just a way to get him on the show. I mean, that is what it is. Then Seth Rollins arrived. We had some comedy. Rollins said Miz has been a b-hole, but Miz said he's the A-lister, and Rollins said, well, that makes him the a-hole then. Ha, ha, ha. Lots of Vince McMahon-like humor on this show. I wonder what that's about. Couldn't be anything, right? Vince isn't having any kind of creative input. No way. Impossible, right? So basically, the gist of all this was that Rollins wanted Miz to call Logan Paul because Miz was at one time friends with Logan Paul and should have his number. Miz said no, it's Rollins' problem. So Rollins responded by super kicking Miz and then using the Face ID, unlocking the phone feature to Miz's lifeless face. And then Rollins FaceTimed Paul and asked how his brother was doing. Jake Paul lost a boxing match this weekend and invited Paul to show up on Raw next week for a confrontation, which Paul did accept. And then Rollins gave Miz another curb stomp. Once again, he's been doing it the past several weeks. So that's the running joke here. So yeah, Miz is the guest host, whatever. I mean, I'm just rolling my eyes at it, but you know, got to get him on the show somehow. Backstage, Theory once again vented about people talking about John Cena and not him, said that he will show John Cena respect on next week's Raw in Boston, but hopes that Cena shows him the same respect. We then had Bobby Lashley versus Elias. Elias had no entrance, so you know he's not going to be doing too well here. And sure enough, I mean, this was the closest thing to just a one-sided squash on the entire show. Rick Boogs was taking notes backstage, maybe taking notes on how to get out of this storyline with Elias. Lashley won with the spear, followed by the hurt lock. And then afterwards, got on the mic, said he's still mad about Brock Lesnar. And now Bray Wyatt's saying things about him, making fun of him, says he doesn't play little kid games. And he warned Bray Wyatt to keep his name out of his mouth or else he's going to hurt him. Lashley started to take his leave. And then, of course, Bray Wyatt pops up on the big screen. He had a little dance video with a Photoshop cutout render of Bobby Lashley dancing. Bray Wyatt was the muscle man dancing again. So, you know, more of the Firefly Funhouse comedy. Once again, very Vince McMahon-like. I mean, this was just goofy. This is not what I wanted from the Bray Wyatt return. Like, why bring back Bray Wyatt just to do the same stuff? The Firefly Funhouse comedy, the matches with the poor lighting. Like, what's the deal here? I was hoping when Bray Wyatt came back, I was hoping they were going to maybe do something different. And, you know, they were for a bit with Uncle Howdy, but now that's kind of fizzled out. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it's mildly amusing, but like this match, I don't care about it whatsoever. It's a mismatch. If Bray Wyatt was maybe doing more of a serious, more realistic character, maybe, but he had one match since coming back on TV, and it was the same old Bray Wyatt, poor lighting, 95% of what he does is the goofy comedy. So it's like, I not feeling the matchup to this point. So they got a ways to go with this one. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Psycho. Says, let's hope Virtue's right and that Bray can put on a great match at WrestleMania. Otherwise, why bother caring about him and Uncle Howdy? Good point. And where's Alexa Bliss? Like, whatever happened to the Wyatt Six? Like, what's going on with Uncle Howdy? Now he's just Bray Wyatt's sidekick. I thought like this storyline had a lot more potential, and it's fizzling out for me, this Bray Wyatt stuff. The Game is on 100 with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, biggest fear is Lashley going to look bad in the end. I mean, and again, this is one of those matches where like it's a no-win for either guy. I'm not sure how you book this match and make both guys look strong other than them actually having like a lengthy back and forth wrestling match. But are they going to do that, or is it going to be the comedy? And I mean, going in, my expectations are low. Maybe they'll surprise me and it'll be really entertaining. Maybe they'll tell a good story, but yeah, I'm not so sure about this. We then had Otis versus Johnny Gargano. MMM was at ringside, which, you know how this is going. Otis was fixated on Maxine Dupree, and you had Mansoor and Massey out there, but of course Dexter Lumis showed up to even the odds. Nobody cared. Gargano DDT'd Otis on the apron, got him back in the ring, hit the one final beat. And yeah, I mean, Gargano and Dexter are flat on the main roster. I hate to say it. I mean, getting rid of Gargano's old music, changing it was a bad idea. But yeah, like up to this point, like they're just not connecting with the audience for whatever reason. I mean, Gargano, the best showing he had was at the Chamber, because he actually got to be the old school NXT Johnny Gargano a little bit. But other than that, he's not really done a whole lot to really wow fans on the big stage, which is very unfortunate considering his potential and what he's accomplished in the past. We had a Paul Heyman promo saying that maybe it'll be Roman Reigns that confronts Cody instead of the other way around. So, pretty basic stuff here. And then we had our main event, tag team titles up for grabs. Lita and Becky Lynch challenging Damage Control. Lita and Becky were dominating early on in this match. Lita almost hit the twist of fate, but Dakota avoided it. They double teamed Io with a double suplex. And then Becky Lynch double DDT'd both Damage Control members, but Dakota kicked out. And Io Sky saved Dakota from the disarmor. And at this point, Damage Control got the upper hand. They worked over Becky, and then Bayley knocked Lita off the apron to prevent the hot tag, and then slid one of the tag team titles into the ring. But guess who showed up? After weeks of rumors and speculation, Trish Stratus shows up. Crowd did pop for this, so they finally woke up here at the end of the show. And they did pop for Rollins too, but they were dead for a good part of this show. Trish ran down, went after Bayley. Lita finally got the hot tag. Io Sky went for the moonsault but missed. Lita hit the twist of fate. And then Dakota Kai tried to interfere, but Becky took her out. Lita did hit her moonsault and got the 1-2-3 victory. Lita and Becky Lynch, your new tag team champions. easily the best thing on Raw. Trish Stratus celebrated with them. My only complaint here at the end, they did do the fireworks at the end, which was nice, but they went off the air so quickly here. Like, I mean, they barely got any time to celebrate. You got the fireworks, but then they very quickly went off the air. Like, they should have timed this a little bit better to really let it sink in that there's a title change instead of just going off the air right away. So what's next now? Do we get a 6-woman match? Will Damage Control get a rematch and Ronda Rousey and Shayna get added to the mix? Like, I mean, there's 2 different ways it can go. Will there be 2 matches? Maybe the 6-woman match on night 1 and the tag team titles defended on night 2. I mean, time will tell on that one. Gomer Kyle sent in a $10 super chat. Says, so what match are you more excited for? The Bray versus Lashley match or Omos versus Lesnar or best bathroom break match? At this point, I would say Omos versus Lesnar, just because I know the F5 is going to be cool. We know what they're going to do, but it'll be effective. Like I said on the review, people just want to see Brock Lesnar kick ass. He comes out there, beats up Omos, gives him the F5, you know. Omos is going to be losing. We know that. With Bray Wyatt and Bobby Lashley, I'm just not sure what they're going to do and how they can get both guys over. One guy has to lose, right? I mean, Omos is not winning. They're not pushing him. So we know that it's going to be a Brock Lesnar beatdown. That's fine. But really, Bobby Lashley and Bray Wyatt need to both come out of this looking strong. And my fear is this match could just end up devaluing both of them. I just don't know if this is a good idea. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Psycho. Says, Bray Wyatt versus Baron Corbin, find a hairline match. Ooh, well, Bray Wyatt still got some of his hair. How about Baron Corbin versus me in a hairline match? That would be more realistic there. Bray's still got some of his hair. Hep Connell sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, Lita was botching so much that I was praying when she did the moonsault. I've never been so afraid for a superstar in my 25 years of being a fan. Well, yeah, she hasn't really done a whole lot. So when you're not active wrestling on a weekly basis, it can be difficult. But she did pull off the moonsault, and yeah, she did move a bit slow in there, but you know, she's got the star power, and Becky Lynch can carry the matches. You know, kind of like the Sting and Darby Allin thing, where Darby Allin does 90% of the work. Sting can do his 1 or 2 big moves, and because he's Sting, you know, he can hit a Scorpion Death Drop and the crowd will pop for it. You know, that type of deal. So I like the pairing, and we'll see how long it goes on, but I would expect something with them at WrestleMania, either a 6-woman match or maybe the tag match, maybe a triple threat tag match with Ronda and Shayna. We'll see what they do. All in all, not a great show in my opinion. I have to say, and Miguel asked how I'm liking the build and hype. This particular show, I mean, I think for the most part, it was pretty boring and skippable. Other than the main event stole the show. And Brock Lesnar's segment was pretty entertaining. But the main event was the one segment that I would say, you know what, you should watch it. Because, you know, you got Trish Stratus, you got Lita, you got the title change. The Seth segment was somewhat entertaining. I'm going to give the show a C+. It had its moments, but it was also for a WrestleMania season episode of Raw, I felt it was lacking. Definitely could have been better. Had some weak comedy that felt very Vince-like. And the crowd sucked for the most part. They did pop for a few things, but overall, like I said, maybe the weakest Raw crowd of the year, which is unfortunate. Grand Rapids, I mean, I've been there. It's a nice town, but yeah, they lacked the energy. It just felt flat. All in all, though, it was meant to be a setup for next week. You know, John Cena's coming back. It's kind of like the calm before the storm. Next week, I have pretty high expectations. They're going to be in Boston. Cena's returning, and you got Logan Paul. You know, they're stacking next week's show. This week was kind of just like, other than the main event, kind of just setting up for next week. Walter Cruz sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, this was a very, very Vincey Raw, very curious. Yeah, and you know, people are going to deny that Vince is not involved, and maybe he's not, but you know, some of this stuff definitely feels Vince-like. And maybe Vince is calling in and saying, you guys should do this for WrestleMania. And, you know, they're just trying to do what they can to make this WrestleMania as big as possible. And, you know, the guy that's been running the company for 38 WrestleManias would know a thing or two about building up WrestleMania, right? So they might get some input from him. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. Much love and appreciation. Thank you to everybody that super chatted. I hope you enjoyed the live stream. If you did, give it a like on YouTube and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Tell a friend, anybody you know who watches wrestling. Have them check out the channel. Much love and appreciation to everybody. Enjoy your week, and I will see you this Wednesday for a recap of AEW Dynamite. Don't forget, say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.